Okay, so I want to bring in our next guest. I see he's waiting here, waiting in the wings. We've got Aidan Bishop, of course, the interim CEO at Bluebird Mining Ventures. Hi, Aidan, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Mark. How are you?
Good, very good, thank you. I'll start off with the question. Are you a football fan?
Yeah, I like football. Yeah.
What do you want to make your prediction?
To me, the match tonight's pretty irrelevant. I've followed Liverpool for years, so of course happy that they won the Premiership.
Okay, right, good. So you're indifferent. Okay, a bit like me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, well, back to business. So Batangas, that's what we're talking about today. So this is, of course, the project with that JORC compliant resource, 44,000 ounces, including the maiden ore reserve of 128,000. So I wonder if you could perhaps just, because I know this has been on hold for quite a while, hasn't it? So I wonder if you can perhaps just set the scene for us first of all on Batangas.
Yeah, it's actually 440,000 ounces.
Sorry, I've missed a zero off. I do apologise.
You just took us down by 90% there. So that was actually the original project that the company listed on back in 2016, and it went on hold pretty much soon after the listing due to a change in government. And in 2022, there was a change in government that was for the better for the mining industry, and the project came back to life. We brought in a local partner, and it started to be developed. And then more recently, we got the permit renewed again, and things are moving on quite well. The Philippines is actually looking quite optimistic, probably the most optimistic for decades in terms of mining, I would say. Even just within the last couple of weeks, the Supreme Court ruled that local governments cannot trump national law with regards to mining. So that was some clarity that the industry have been looking forward to receiving for quite some time in the Philippines. And I think it's going to open the door to a lot more interest in mining projects in the Philippines.
Okay.
So that was really the sort of the backdrop to it, of how we got involved with it, where we are now. And yeah, no, we're very optimistic about it.
Excellent. How important is mining to the Philippine economy? I mean, is it a big part of it?
It used to be actually under Marcos Senior. It was something like about close to 20% of GDP, and then mining, hasn't been emphasized, and it has been a much smaller contributor to GDP. It has the potential for so much more. The largest undeveloped copper mine in the region is in the southern Philippines. There's about 60 known copper porphyries in the Philippines. So the expectation is, or the hope is, that it will once again become an increasing contributor to the GDP, and it certainly has the potential to do so.
Okay, and the feeling now amongst you and the team, it sounds pretty optimistic with the new government. I mean, can you be over optimistic, or do you really feel that this is perhaps a turning point?
You can always be over optimistic when it comes to the Philippines. It's a thing that I've
and mining for that matter.
And mining, I think I've learned over the years. But look, I mean, I got a good sense about it that there's certainly change within the air. There is a general sense of optimism, and there seems to be a will to really move the country forward and really get a benefit from the natural resources that it's been blessed with. So I think, I'm optimistic.
Good. Okay. Good. Well, it seems to have timed fairly well because, of course, gold prices are at record highs. I mean, can you tell us a bit about how the changing gold prices have perhaps improved the economics at Batangas?
Yeah, it does show you how you need a lot of patience in the resources game, because I mean, I look back to when we started, what the gold price was. I think at the lowest point in the life of the company, the gold price went down to about $1,000, and now it's $3,300 or so. So what that means is that if you look at the historical resource and reserve calculations, those can be reworked now, because you could use lower cutoff grades that would increase the ounces. So that, I mean, I'm expecting actually that the ounces will increase, and as the feasibility study work progresses, I think that will prove itself out. So we'll see.
Okay, Good. So you want to look to increase the ounces, but did you also do some work where you reinterpreted the PFS, which
Yeah.
is shown improved numbers?
Yeah, so the last PFS was done in about 2016, and it was done based upon a different mining approach that we're going to be taking. The previous one was done with a much higher capex cost because it focused on the two license areas, and they're two very distinctly different types of project. And we're focusing on the Lobo area, which is a lot higher grade. So when you contextualize Lobo, the economics are far superior in terms of a cost per ounce basis as to when they were originally worked. So even when we put out that RNS Reach last week or so on a reworked number, my expectation is the numbers will be far superior to that, which and those we have to wait until the declaration of mining project feasibility work progresses, and I think that will evidence that out to be the case. So the economics are extremely attractive when it comes to the Lobo part of the license.
Okay, and that rework PFS, is that official? Does it need to be done completely again, or is the work you've done is it sort of set as it is now?
So it's called the Declaration of Mining Project Feasibility, which is basically like a PFS/BFS study. So that would have been done previously based upon the complete license area, a different mining approach that we're taking. So what is being done now, and there'll be some drilling that will take place that will has a dual-fold purpose. One, to look at the ground conditions. One will be to drill for some more ounces there as part of the commitment over the next 2 years. And then there'll be some renewed metallurgy work that takes place, some more mining engineering study that will take place, and all of this will contribute into a reworked feasibility study, and that will demonstrate the economic profile of production.
Okay, so do you have a timeline on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's already starting now. I mean, we had to wait for the renewal, so that's all going to be put into motion now by our local partner. Fortunately, we don't have to pay for any of this, which is fantastic. And so, yeah, there's two aspects to the work streams that they're undertaking. One is on the work relating to the declaration of mining project feasibility, which will include drilling, geotechnical drilling to understanding ground conditions, metallurgy. And also on the other side of the coin will be work focused on the environmental impact assessment, and there's a whole bunch of data collection that takes place over 2 different weather seasons, and that builds into the environmental compliance certificate that we're working towards, which is the second permission that we need to get.
Okay. So that work is started now, as you say. So the environmental stuff has to go over 2 seasons. So that's 2 years effectively. But
no, it's not 2 years, 2 seasons. So in the Philippines,
oh, sorry. Okay.
There's weather seasons, right? Wet season, dry season. So with a bit of luck, we should be able to get the dry seasons work finished in the next, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, and then that's that season taken care of.
Okay. And then the drilling, that just goes ahead. I mean, again, have you had an indication from your partner about when they'd like to get this out?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things you need to do in order to start drilling on the project. There's some permissions that you require. It's pretty basic type of stuff, but I'm hoping that we'll get to that in the next couple of months, and that can be done quite quickly actually, because we're talking about drilling not a whole lot of meters, about 1,500 meters. That'll be diamond drilling.
Okay,
so that can be done, using one rig. We could do the whole thing over a month, quite comfortably.
Okay, and this, as you said, was PFS/DFS, so that's sort of the next level, if you like. So how will that inform the next steps then? Would we then look to start doing further studies, or would you look to start looking to actually get this into production?
Yeah, so the reason you have to do this is, this PFS/DFS is this declaration of mining project feasibility. It's a technical study that you submit to the government, and then their technical departments evaluate it and look at it. So that's basically what you're working towards. It's the final technical document, really, that precedes going into the construction phase.
Okay. So at that point, then you could look to effectively, go into that phase and look for funding, etc., to actually crack on with that. On that note, actually, you mentioned it costs you nothing. This is the free carry. Can you just explain that structure with your partner here, what the agreement is, who pays for what, and who gets what upside?
Yeah, so at the moment, the local partner has 25% project interest, and they can progress to a 60% project interest. And they will achieve that once the declaration of mining project feasibility has been approved and the environmental compliance certificate has been issued, which is basically a construction production decision at that time.
Okay.
So we have no costs until that time. At that moment, it becomes a 60-40 joint venture. And at that time, of course, the costs of production will be known. And then, there's a decision to be made then is, do we contribute in that 60-40 joint venture or not? Or do we look to negotiate some sort of other structure or deal? But that can be done either any time, actually, but or nearer the time.
Okay, that's clear. Now, I think you also previously told the market that you were looking to perhaps actively monetize early due to the disconnect between the value of the project and that of the company itself. And I know, I think last week you announced that the company or the local partner had expressed interest in buying out Bluebird's stake in the project. So, I mean, yeah, first of all, can you tell us about where this came from? What's the rationale behind this from their point of view?
Well, okay, look, just take a step back. I mean, it's not like we've been actively looking for people to, buy out our stake or buy the project, but actually we get approached. Obviously, we have a good relationship with the local partner, and they've expressed a desire to acquire all of the project from us on a number of occasions. That desire has increased certainly since the renewal of the permit. And also we've had those other third parties as well, have engaged in discussion with us. They've had various different degrees of interest. So it's pretty obvious to us that this is a desirable project. I mean, historically it's had challenges, but given the change of climate in the Philippines now, I think it's probably in the best position in terms of the probability of success that it ever has. Since the last decade or so.
Okay, so what are the next steps with regards to that then? Do you just keep having discussions and see where they go?
Well, yes, we do. And I guess we don't have to do anything. I mean, everything has a price, of course, and you look around the value, the risk curve, and a price. So we do keep up an open discussion and an open dialogue. There's certainly. Yeah, I mean, they are the natural buyer of this project. There's no doubt about that. The question is when and how much. That we don't know yet.
Okay. And just on the gold prices, then, just considering where they are right now, do you expect as a company to further your interest in gold projects in the Philippines or indeed elsewhere?
I think it's a bit too early to say. I mean, I always get to see projects and hear about projects, and I'm shown different projects, and not just in the Philippines, not just gold. Globally, I get to see quite a few different projects that all look interesting. I guess you have to look as a company what stage you're at, what's realistic, what you can do, what you could gain funding for, how could you acquire a project. I think for us, really, it would be good to get one of our projects over the line, in the sense of it's now going into construction. That will put us in a strong position. And I mean, maybe that's an opportune time to start considering another opportunity.
Okay, yeah. So get at least one of them going into construction, and then perhaps look to expand.
That would seem logical.
Yes, indeed. Good. Well, thanks, Aidan. So that puts us just a little bit early for the questions, but I can see some are coming in. The first one is actually just an update, if you can. I know this is about the Batangas project, but just a general update. It looks like on the permitting process for Kochang and Gubong in South Korea. Any key milestones investors should watch out for in the next 12 months?
Yeah, look, it's still progressing. Obviously, Korea has been more challenging than we have first thought it would be, and we've had setbacks there. We've made predictions about when we think certain things would happen, and it hasn't. So I think it's quite difficult to really say about milestones, and I'm kind of sort of over trying to predict Korea. I think I've got a better handle on the Philippines. I actually thought personally, I thought the Philippine renewal would have happened around the end of February. So I was a little bit wrong on that one. But I don't have the same kind of handle on Korea in quite the same way. So again, we got a very low cost base there just to keep things ticking along. When we remain optimistic for a positive conclusion. The gold's not going anywhere. The gold's been in the ground all this time, and it's just been increasing in value. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to mine that.
Good. And those ones are still, they're both free carry as well, aren't they? I think.
So the Gubong is free carried. Kochang will be free carried if the local partner determines they want to activate a joint venture there. But we're waiting for certain things to take place.
Okay. What keeps you and the team busy on a daily basis with all these free carries, Aidan?
Yes. Free carries doesn't mean no work. So I actually spend a lot of time, particularly lately, on Batangas. Because even though the local partner is funding everything, they're still looking. Bluebird has a team there, or there's a team of people connected with the project historically that they're hiring to do certain things. So I'm still very much actively involved on a day-to-day basis in all of the projects actually, and certainly more so now in Batangas.
Good. That's good to hear. Okay, let's have a look at these questions. Okay, we have touched on this a little bit, but it's I guess concerns around regulatory challenges. So, what steps are Bluebird taking to mitigate risks related to permitting or community opposition at Batangas?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So, permitting, we just got the renewal, so that's very good. And this is really the value in having a local partner who is able to obviously understand the community, the culture much better than we do, even though in my case I've spent many years in the Philippines. So I think that really that's the whole ethos behind having a local partner on your side, that they can better navigate these situations. And unfortunately, they're very well connected, and that becomes very important, particularly in trying to take a mining project from the exploration stage into the production stage. So I think it's really around the local partner. I think as well, it's very important to have sensitivity towards the community. You have to understand all of the stakeholders in the community, not just those that are pro-mining, some that are not so pro-mining, some that are indifferent to mining. You've really got to look at the whole spectrum, consider all of the concerns, and really be open and transparent, and be able to communicate with the community so that they know what you're doing, why you're doing it. And that's less important at the exploration stage, because you don't really make so much of an impact. You're not that visible. But we're going to look to get the gold out of the ground. So obviously that does make an impact, and therefore it's important that we have people on side and the community go with us, because ultimately the success of your project locally is really going to be, is there a benefit to the local community, to the local government? Is there a benefit? And that has to be clearly understood. It has to be defined, and you have to be able to communicate that. I mean, otherwise, if there's nothing in it for them, why should they bother, right? So those are some of the things that we do. Okay,
I just want to elaborate on that point a little bit. So earlier you said in the past, I think it was 20% of GDP was from the mining industry. So that's obviously at a GDP sort of government level, let's say. When it comes to the locals, the people, what is their attitude to mining? I mean, when you can give back to them, what is it they want? Is it rehabilitation of areas? Is it money? Is it jobs? And what's the general attitude amongst the people for mining projects?
That's a very good question. So first of all, at this project, the surface area where the deposit is 2.6 hectares. That's very small. That's 26,000 square meters. That's very, very, very small. The license area on that particular license is 1,000 hectares, and we're talking about 2.6 hectares. So one of the things that we're looking to communicate, that the previous partners did not communicate very well, is this is a very, very small project in terms of its surface footprint. So that should alleviate any concerns around managing the environment. But really, what do people want? So jobs is certainly one thing. and we are looking at things like scholarships, to provide scholarships. Education is very important in the Philippines. So how can we help the community? How can we help their kids with education? It's also, there's a lot of agriculture that takes place. African swine flu has devastated Batangas. How can we do things there that help farmers? So these are all the things that we can do, and how the project can benefit the local community. So of course, I think it's probably quite difficult for them to grasp at this point in time, because it's a project that hasn't materialized yet. It takes years to materialize, really, from its beginning and in its concept stage, which actually began 20 years ago, this project, or 25 years ago almost. So, you know, I think as we advance it, those discussions will become, you know, much more detailed, and then they'll start to get a sense of realism that this actually really could happen, and then the benefits will become, you know, more tangible, not just in their thinking, but they'll be able to see, okay, this is gonna really have a positive impact on us, and that's the hope. That's what we want to communicate.
Okay, good. Well, it sounds like you know what you're talking about, and you're on with that, so that's good to hear, Aidan. Okay, question for you: will Aidan, as interim CEO, be improving investor relations, i.e., keeping in contact with investors?
Well, look, we do make announcements via RNS Reach as we have to. So we've done that. Of course, from time to time, we have interviews, like, you know, we spoke on a number of occasions, Mark. So we do what we can do. Hopefully that as the projects continue to advance, we'll have more to say. I mean, one of the frustrating things, I get it, is, you know, if you're an investor, a shareholder in a mining company, and things aren't moving. And sometimes, you know, particularly in permitting process, it's like crawling through treacle. I mean, it's frustrating for the company. It's frustrating for me. I can understand it's frustrating for shareholders as well. So, you know, we try to communicate and be as accurate as we can, and also to provide insights into where we're going, what we're looking to achieve, and what stage we're at, and our level of optimism.
Good to hear, Aidan. Good to hear. Yeah, it is instant gratification. We need updates every day on what's going on the ground. But yeah. Oh, here we go. Another question's coming. Do you hope to stay on as CEO, or will you strengthen the board of directors?
I would. That's a good question, actually. So I think we'd certainly need to strengthen the board of directors, because we're missing one non-executive director, and so we're certainly on the hunt for somebody there. And I think you know, I've been doing this for next year will be 10 years almost, with Bluebird. It was so I think it's really, at some point in time, it's going to be time for somebody else that's you know, more qualified than I am to take on the reign. I basically took on the role after Colin Patterson stepped down, and so I've been doing it on an interim basis, and that's why the word is interim, not permanent.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see if it becomes permanent, will we, Aidan? Or...
No, it's interim. It's definitely 100%. It's staying interim.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, another one's coming here. Are there any opportunities at Batangas beyond the high-grade Lobo area? Are these also being developed?
That's also a very good question. So, leading into the earlier question about really understanding the community, is that the previous project partner, when we first took on the project, had envisaged a very different project. They had envisaged a large open pit in one area, a smaller area in Lobo. They'd envisaged building highways and trucking ore every 15 minutes down a road, very impractical. And so there are other opportunities at Batangas, absolutely no doubt. But really, what we are looking to do is, if we can get this punt into production first of all, and then look to establish some success, build our relationship with the community, expand that relationship with the community, and that will lead to other opportunities. Absolutely.
Okay. Good. I don't think you're a prediction man, are you? But what do you think? Gold price prediction?
Who knows? I mean, you know, who knows what? I mean, it's not something I actually really watch every day, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, in the last few months, it's been pretty interesting to see the rise of the gold price. I mean, some people say it could be $4,000.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't really know.
No, I do watch it every day. I have a little thing that sits on my desk, and it ticks up and down every day. It's nice to see. Yeah, I was at the Swiss Mining Institute back in March, and there were some pretty strong predictions there. I think someone was calling for 5,000 in 18 months' time. So yeah, we'll see. It'd be quite nice, won't it?
I actually look at the Bitcoin price every day lately, and that's been absolutely booming. So, but
that also sits on my desk as well, and
there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, well, that's a good bellwether, I think, as well for risk on appetite, risk on, risk off appetite. I tend to think so. To see that nicely above 100,000 now is, yeah. I don't know. What do you think? How are you feeling generally about the sector? Because it's been tough last 2 years, maybe even more.
Are you asking about mining or Bitcoin?
Yeah, no, mining.
Mining. Oh,
well, the markets, let's say.
Oh, the markets. Yeah, look, the markets are tough. I mean, I think one of the things that I never really fully appreciated when I started Bluebird is really, if you look at the sort of nano cap stocks, which pretty much all these are companies like Bluebird is very much the domain of the private investor, and so it took me quite some time to really sort of realize that. And as such, it can be very volatile. I mean, it can be, there can be periods of complete disinterest for a long time. It's tough. I mean, it's tough. It's not a. It's certainly not. It's not easy. And I think if you think about it, the private investor, their ability to invest their spare cash into a mining company. I mean, people aren't, hopefully not anyway, putting their last savings into small cap mining companies. This really comes from excess funds that they have, and then that's really going to be dependent upon the economy and sentiment around the economy. So and again, I think as a mining company you have to be very sensitive to that as well in terms of your planning. You can have great grandiose plans, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but again, how are you going to fund those, and over what period are you going to be able to do that, and what happens if sentiment changes, and what happens if funds are not available for you to do those kind of things. So yeah.
Indeed. Okay. Well, we'll have to see what happens, but hopefully, as you say, it starts to sort of come back around. I think there's one last one last question here, then I can let you go. Key core milestones for the next 12 months.
Okay, core milestones for the next 12 months. I would say, in a nutshell, that let's look for the Batangas permit to progress, and how we know if the work is on the ground is going to be progressing. It's really the work or the announcements that come out of the declaration of mining project feasibility work, the progress on the environmental impact study. I think all of those are milestones, and hopefully we can break those down into sort of mini milestones or steps towards milestones, and keep investors informed of those. I think if we can do that, that will be great.
That'll be good. Nice summary there. If you can do that in little bits, that'd be great. I'd like to discuss that with you at some point. But Aidan, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. If you can hang around, you'll be off air for half an hour, but do stick around if you can to come back with our other guests to talk about gold. But for now, Aidan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So we've